Welcome. I'm Richard Hosnode, and I want to welcome you to the first of these three training videos, which some people I've talked to that have looked at the material say, Richard, this is an absolute masterclass. And quite frankly, I think it is. It is material that has never really been available broadly to people to help them consistently double their innovation success rate. In these three videos, in video one, which is this one, you're going to learn about the three of the innovation best practices that are processes that help you identify innovative solutions that contribute multiple highly meaningful benefits, plural, that add up to being dramatically better than the competition. Okay? You're going to have many options to be able to do that. Because quite frankly, creating innovative solutions that are dramatically better than competition usually require multiple innovations. As you'll see in the example of the iPhone, it's everything from business model innovation to system to service and all kinds of innovations, 5 different types as a matter of fact, in that case, that added up to being dramatically better than the flip phone competition at the time. Okay? So what you're going to see here is a good in-depth discussion, training on 3 of those innovation best practices. In the second training video, we'll go back to quantum idea generation. And you thought you learned a lot in the free video. Put your seatbelt on. You're going to learn so much more about quantum idea generation. The reason I kind of describe quantum idea generation out of the 8 innovation best practices as the core best practice. Why is that? Well, it has to work hand in hand with the 3 innovation best practice processes that you're going to see in this particular training video. These 3 best practices, the only way you're going to get the most out of them, optimize their contributions, is by using them in a quantum idea generation 2.0 training session. That's why they go hand in glove, and that's why quantum idea generation is so key. In the third video, we're going to get to a point where, okay, all the best practices we've talked about so far are going to deliver a large quantity and quality of ideas. How do we sort that out in a very smart, easy, fast, and cost-efficient way? A lot of benefits there, right? Well, we're going to do it with the innovation best practice of choice for that. It's called Merwin technology. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get into some perceptions and some insights about innovation in general that will help you understand why you really, really need this innovation program if you want to consistently double your innovation success rate. Okay, let's get started. We're going to focus on the innovation best practices that relate to processes. Each of these is powerful in its own right. Each of these has been proven in the real world to generate dramatically better innovative solutions than the existing competition at the time. These best practices, which are made up of the 10 types of innovation. You'll see that the iPhone introduction used 5 types to create their wow. The 30 dimensions of value. These are the most important consumer values that you can use to create competitive advantage. And Blue Ocean Strategy, which is famous for creating innovative solutions with no competition. Pretty nice, huh? Entirely new types of products. So each of these is proven in their own right, and each of them is a powerful source of creating competitive advantages. Well, with that said, let's understand why competitive advantages are so important. Just revisiting something you saw in the training video, only because it's critical to understanding the importance of these processes and where we set the bar for success. As I shared with you then, and it hasn't changed since then, 75 to 80% of all innovations have failed for the last 55 plus years. That's an extraordinarily, at least according for me, failure rate. And it's quite frankly totally unnecessary, as you will see.
Now, this failure rate has been documented in research study after research study that has appeared in high quality and reputable publications like the Harvard Business Review. In fact, they published one of the very first studies on the failure rate back in 1961, the Wall Street Journal, the Department of Commerce, and many more. Okay, so this failure rate is real, and it doesn't matter whether you're B2C, B2B, big company, small company, what type of business you're in, it does not matter. Okay, so the key here is, though, that we know the failure rate's primary cause. There are several causes, but there is one primary cause, and that is this. Innovators seriously underestimate how difficult it is to get competitive users to switch to a new innovation. And this is especially true when you try to get the loyal users of competitive products to switch, who often may make up only 20% of that competitive product's users, but can constitute about 80% of the volume. These people are particularly difficult to switch. Fortunately, we know what it takes to get them to switch, and in doing that, we know how you can consistently double your innovation success. And this is what it requires. This is where you need to set the objective for your innovations. You want to develop innovative solutions that deliver highly meaningful benefits, plural, that add up to being dramatically better than your competition. Now, both parts of that, the highly meaningful benefits and dramatically better than your competition, are very tough standards to meet. There's no doubt about it. But that's why I created my company, Innovate to Grow Experts, to have the capabilities to do that. We are to create dramatically better innovative solutions. It truly requires using the 8 most proven innovation best practices. These are the 8 most proven innovation best practices. In this training video, we're focusing on the 3 idea exploration best practices. Idea generation will be covered in video 2. Idea assessment will be covered in video 3, with data collection and data analysis also being covered in video number 2. All of these 8 practices working together is what's required to consistently double your innovation success rate by creating multiple highly meaningful benefits that add up to being dramatically better than your competition. This is why I created my company, to help companies double their innovation success rate. Okay? So let's get into these innovation best practices processes. This is mind-blowingly strong and powerful, because in combination, these 3 offer over 40 methods of creating dramatically better competitive advantages when you look at these 10 types of innovation, 30 dimensions of value, and Blue Ocean strategy. 40 options to create highly meaningful benefit innovations. Okay? That's what makes this so important. This is the path to your creating innovations that are going to be dramatically better than your competition. Okay, it's important to note that these 3 innovation best practices work hand in hand with quantum idea generation, which will be covered in much greater detail in video number 2. All of these processes work in a creative session where quantum idea generation principles are at work. In the creative sessions, there are creative exercises focused on relevant types of innovation and dimensions of value. The goal of using quantum plus the processes, we create multiple highly meaningful innovative benefits adding up to the dramatically better than competition. Okay? So while I'm covering them in separate videos, please understand that quantum idea generation and the 3 innovation best practices processes work hand in glove. They all occur at the same time in a creative session with all these best practices at work. Okay? Well, the 10 types of innovation, is it proven? You bet your life it has. You can Google types of innovation, and you're going to find people that have 8 types of innovation, 5 types of innovation, 15 types of innovation. They're all over the place. In choosing which one to work with and to help you with, I brought in the 10 types of innovation, which is developed by Larry Keeley of the Doblin Group, and this is a discipline of building breakthroughs. And the research that they did clearly showed, and you see it on the screen on the right-hand side, that the more types of innovation you use, the greater your chances for success and the greater amount of success that you have. Now, this just passes the common sense test as you get into the different types of innovation. So let's take a look at two examples. These two examples could not be a whole lot more different. I'm going to start with illustrating the power of the 10 types of innovation with the Model T. Now, the Model T, when Henry Ford, before he developed the Model T, he set a very bold and aggressive goal for the car that was right in line with what I'm talking about in setting aggressive goals for innovation projects. He wanted to deliver the highest quality car, and at the time, automobiles were primarily for the rich, and they weren't all that reliable. So he wanted to create the highest quality car at the lowest price. Now, if you've been in marketing more than one day or in business more than one day, you know that trying to generate the highest quality out of all your competition at the lowest price is a very challenging objective. But it's the objective he set, and it's the objective that he accomplished. And he did that with 5 different types of innovation. First, he started with profit model innovation. This required a 50% down payment with your order. What this did was give him cash even before he needed to deliver the car, to give him cash flow strength. And remember, he was trying to sell his car at the lowest possible price, and this is one of the ways that he was able to afford that. The second innovation that he brought to the car business at that time is he controlled the supply chain to control the quality and reliability. Remember, that helped him achieve the very high quality that he was looking for. He had process innovation. While he did not invent the moving assembly line, he did optimize it. He wanted to get high quality and make the low price profitable. Okay? Process innovation gave him control of the ability to do that, especially when he optimized the moving assembly line. Fourth was product innovation. No frills, reliable. And this I always get a chuckle out of this every time I read it. You could get parts to fix the car at your local hardware store. That's how easy it was to fix many of the things that might go wrong on a Model T. And then there was structural innovation. Henry Ford was the first one to recognize that if he wanted to develop a very high quality car, he needed a quality workforce. So he was the first automobile manufacturer to pay twice the minimum wage because he wanted to attract the best talent possible. So you look at these 5 types of innovation. How did it do? Well, I'll just fast forward to the future to give you some perspective. In the year 2000, it was voted Car of the Century. Yeah, something that was developed in the very early stages. That's how much respect Henry Ford got for the invention of the Model T. And in terms of number of cars sold, up to today, it still ranks in the top 10 all time for number of cars of a specific model sold. So it was a dramatic success because he was able to deliver something that was dramatically better than the competition at the time. Okay? Model T, a major superstar success. Well, if it couldn't get more different than the Model T is the example of the iPhone. Now, the iPhone's been around for a little bit more than 10 years as I'm recording this training video. And we must remember what the competition was at the time it was introduced. The competition was the flip phone. It could make calls. Texting with the keyboard was always an adventure, one that I never quite mastered in any way, shape, or manner. Um, and that was essentially what the phone was. When the iPhone was introduced, it was essentially a small handheld computer, a major dramatic change versus flip phones. And again, there were 5 different types of innovation that Apple used to create a phone that was dramatically better than the flip phone competition at the time. First was profit model innovation. They needed to do this because if you wanted to buy a flip phone, you'd go into Verizon or AT&T and you'd pay full price for it at the time of your acquisition. Well, the price of the iPhone was 20 to 30 times more than most flip phones, and requiring full payment of that at the time of acquisition would have really dampened the market. So Apple, negotiated an exclusive selling relationship with AT&T in exchange for AT&T setting up essentially a financing by spreading the cost out over 2 years. Today, it's accepted practice, but that was an innovation for the first time that Apple initiated. Second was network innovation. I think we all know this. They developed an independent app developer network that made the phone be able to be everything from a flashlight to diagnosing cancer. One of the greatest benefits added to the phone. Third was system innovation, namely very tight integration between the iPhone and other Apple devices, despite the fact that they were very different operating systems. Okay? And that's quite frankly one of the reasons that I am a loyal iPhone user. It works with all my other Apple devices. Product innovation, they also had. It was probably the weakest link in some ways out of all the ones that I've outlined to you here. They certainly, in creating a quality phone, they used at the time the highest quality glass that was available in the construction, and we learned the term Gorilla Glass. Interesting description for a piece of glass. Anyway, and fifth was service innovation, the fifth type of innovation. Now you need to remember, when the iPhone came out, it was so dramatically different than the flip phone that the service was as much a training facility as anything else. Somebody you could call up and say, what do I do with this and how does this work? Plus you had the Apple stores and the Genius Bar where you could make an appointment for one-on-one help. They also had training classes in the Apple stores for personal help to be able to make full use of all this power and capability. So when the iPhone was introduced, it certainly was dramatically better than the competition. It created a great level of wow, and it did all that by using 5 of the 10 types of innovation. I want to now give you some thoughts relative to about 5 of the different types of innovation for the purposes of illustrating how you can think about these different types and use them. And the first that I want to talk about is business model innovation. You've already seen a couple of examples of that with the Model T and the iPhone. It can be a very powerful form of innovation. Business model of innovation is how customers pay for your product. And if you can do that in a way that better meets their needs in competition, you have a competitive advantage. And it is an opportunity to create win-win for customers to more easily pay and for you to earn higher margins. One of the more novel ones, and that I was questioning when it came out, was Microsoft's for their Office, and I think for their Windows product too, moving from buying the entire thing and paying the entire purchase price, usually several $100s for the Microsoft Office, from a initial full price purchasing to a subscription where you pay a monthly fee that gives you all the updates and everything that you need, and it really spreads the cost out over several months, clearly making it more affordable to make that initial decision to buy a Microsoft Office product or Microsoft Windows. So while initially it was a bit of a competitive advantage for Microsoft, boy, it's been met by a lot of folks. So in software, there are people that have different models of innovation. One, sell the product only and a la carte for service, and then others have a purchase price that includes the product and service. And these can be two competitors for essentially the different types of products. So it's a lot of options for business model innovation. A lot of people don't think of this, haven't for a long time. I know in my early years I didn't see this necessarily, but it's turned out to be, for many people, a big innovation. Gillette probably pioneered this by business model innovation in many ways, because what they did was sold the razor at a very low price. Often early on you could get it for free. So they get the razor handle in your home, and then you had to pay to get blades. And blades were where they made the high profit margin. So an interesting profit model that has worked well in that business for a long period of time. Other people have used it in other categories also. So this can be a very big win for your customers and create a competitive advantage for you. Having said that, there's nothing necessarily proprietary about this, so sometimes it can be a short-term competitive advantage. So give it some thought. Next, I want to talk to you about the 10 types of innovation network. This is creating competitive advantages through your connections with external expertise. We saw how Apple did that with their network of app developers, and how Henry Ford did that with the Model T. But other types of network are things like franchising, long popular in some industries. It can make national expansion faster and more affordable. So it's a way of taking a great idea and maybe expanding it faster. You can also, a network can also be a way of expanding your R&D capabilities. By, for example, there's some companies that have exclusive working agreements with various colleges and universities. The way to augment your R&D capabilities to create competitive advantages. So a number of people create competitive advantages through exclusive working relationships with external resources that are critical at the core of the product and service they sell, in a way of creating additional capabilities. And this can be partnerships, it can be alliances, a number of different ways this happens. So the 10 types of innovation network can be a very powerful type of innovation. Next, I want to share with you the product system as a type of innovation. This is where you build product platforms and bundles things together. The system becomes a competitive advantage because only you have these benefits. And it's often a combination of products and services, and it's often complementary products like peanut butter and jelly. And then there is the P&G Swiffer example, one of the biggest. It's now a billion-dollar platform. And I want to give you a little insight into how Swiffer developed. This is a podcast interview I did with Carrie McNamara, who's one of the key members of the Innovate to Grow experts team. She's a real professional innovator, and she worked with Procter & Gamble to do the early on work that led to the development of Swiffer. So let's listen to the interview that I had with Carrie and some somewhat humorous stories about how this came about.
And it was interesting, some of the habits and practices that jumped out. For example, most people only ever dust their home if company's coming over. And in particular, they only really do a good job of dusting their home if their mother-in-law's coming over. So there's some really interesting insights in there that are just like, oh, well, so okay, maybe 2 times a year your whole house actually gets dusted. So it's like, what do you do in between that behavior when your mother-in-law's not coming over and you're not really motivated to truly like take things off the shelves and dust up and things of that nature? And so that kind of got us thinking along the lines of, well, how can we take some of these other habits, right? This kind of tidying up mentality, not the full-on cleaning that you do for mother-in-law, because there's all the cleaning solutions exist for that space. But we looked and said, well, how can we carve out solutions for this other space, this tidying up behavior that happens most of the time, right? When I'm not doing a full-on cleaning, I'm not pulling the vacuum cleaner out, but I still don't want pet hair all over my floor. Or I'm not pulling the Pledge off the shelf with the rag and all the fancy stuff, but I still need to not have dust on the surfaces. And it was that kind of thinking, right, defining that tidying up space as opposed to the full-on cleaning space, that led us to help the team create 3 pretty big brand innovations for the home care division. And it was, looking at the behavior of, and this really even just grosses me out to think about it and continue to say it, but looking at that tidying up behavior of, most people will take a sock and they don't care if it's dirty or not. They take the sock, slide it on their hands, and use that to remove dust from their surfaces. So when they needed to tidy up, if they needed to get dust off their surfaces, they just, oh, look, there's a sock. I'll put that on my hand and just rub it all over my surfaces. Gross. I'm pretty sure we can do that better. And that kind of led to the inspiration for what eventually became Swiffer. And if you think back before, it was the huge behemoth billion-dollar brand that it is today. That's exactly how it started. It started as a static dust cloth that you could rub across your surfaces and not spread all your foot funk all over your house and pick up your dust along the way.
That's a great, great story. And it's in the podcast, the Innovation Best Practices podcast. There's a number of podcasts, especially my interviews with Carrie, where we take you inside some of the biggest innovations in consumer products in history, actually. The Swiffer one, there's one in there for Gatorade also, and some others. So this gives you some insight into the development of what has become a product system and how it started. So it's all very important. I want to spend a little bit more time on product systems or product platform, because this is a type of innovation that can really produce big business outcomes. We've talked a little bit about Swiffer being $1 billion business as a platform. I had an interview for my Innovation Best Practices podcast with Larry Keeley of the Doblin Group, of course, the founder of this particular 10 types of innovation. And in that conversation, he talked rather eloquently about the importance of product systems and product platforms. So I've taken an extract out of that podcast to share it with you and listen to his words of wisdom.
Okay, so the default setting that almost every team has is that they're supposed to create a new product. Your world in P&G is a perfect example of that. You know that P&G through the years was famous for creating product variants, and yet every time it created a new platform or franchise, and the classic example used in the modern era is Swiffer. Other examples could have been Tide or Crest or Bounce. Then you get dramatically greater return on investment from that new franchise than you do from a new flavor of Crest toothpaste, for instance. And so that's a generally important insight, but unfortunately, most innovation methods haven't caught up with that. What I love to do with students is to get them to be hungry to create at a minimum platform-level innovations. Those are things that we all know and love, like the iTunes Store, or the ability to create something that is robust and scalable, like the Zappos interface, or the world of Uber's app or Airbnb's app. That platform level innovation at a minimum, typically in a connected world, Richard, gives people vastly greater lift and leverage. The most valuable thing to think about these days is an ecosystem. So beyond Uber's app is the entire world of attracting drivers, many of them getting a job that they otherwise could not have gotten, and creating something that will make customers really love Uber or its near competitor Lyft. Those things are really cool, and doing it effectively, thinking about what it means to have a bigger aspiration to create something that lives beyond products, is the starting place for getting to a smaller number of bigger ideas.
Great advice there from Larry. Again, of the 10 types of innovation, product systems can be, and platforms and ecosystems, if you will, can be a really great source for big ideas. And big ideas are what are going to help you create innovative solutions that are dramatically better than your competition, the level that you need to rise to if you want to switch a considerable and necessary number of competitive users to your innovative solution. Okay, let's take a look at another type of innovation, and that is process innovation. And this has been around for a long time from a manufacturing and R&D standpoint, where I think we're all familiar with it. Proprietary ingredients, materials, formulas, patented things, lean production. We saw a good example of process innovation on the Ford example, with where the Henry Ford optimized the assembly line to be able to produce the Model T. And the example today, Amazon's a great example and for a number of types of innovation, but their supply chain, highly innovative, especially the way that they have brought partnering businesses into the Amazon umbrella. And this is, I've heard in some instances, where fully about half of Amazon's business is business that they sell from other companies, where Amazon does various degrees of service. Sometimes it's only collecting the money, other times it's collecting the money and shipping the order and handling returns and all that sort of thing. But it is a supply chain, warehouse operations, robots, all of it, that is tremendous levels of process innovation. Amazon is a tremendously successful, innovative company. Let's take a look at another type of innovation, that's channel innovation. And having just spoken of Amazon back in the mid to late 1990s, when e-commerce was starting to blossom for the first time, with Amazon being founded around 1995, 96, when they just sold books. And I was an author at the time, so I bought a lot from them. Channel innovation is a way that a number of people have been able to use innovation to create competitive advantages and have more ways to touch consumers. And certainly the online part of that has been a major innovation. But here's an example of Nespresso, and I like this example. Look at the channels that they use. Retail stores, kiosks at Macy's and Bloomingdale's, and a Nespresso online club, and offerings in Ritz-Carlton, Hyatt rooms, and on European airlines. Now that's a whole bunch of channels that they use to touch people in so many different ways. Okay? So interesting ways and forms of channel innovation. So how can you use these types of innovation to create competitive advantages? Well, there's two perspectives I'd like to share with you. First is let customers guide your selections. For example, you can look at what their greatest dislikes and frustrations are, do research on that, and that you could fix with one or more types of innovation. What benefits are most important to your customers that could be made stronger, and competitive advantages created with different types of innovation. And what competitor innovations are a threat and could be countered with different types of innovation. Okay, so looking at it from the customer perspective. Here's another way of trying to figure out which types of innovation might be most promising to explore in an innovation session. Let company capabilities guide your selection. What capabilities do you have in your company across all of your business operations? What technologies, what current and emerging technologies can be best leveraged to create competitive advantages with different types of innovation? What brands do you have that could be used innovatively, maybe to create new product systems or platforms that have the potential to create competitive advantages? What other assets does your company have that can be leveraged with different types of innovation
to again create competitive advantages. Okay? Two perspectives to look at the different types of innovation about which ones might be most relevant and promising for your business. This is the kind of decision-making process that you need to go through before you come into a creative session so you can design creative exercises to optimize the most promising ones. And speaking of creative exercises, here's a specific suggestion about how the creative exercise could be used to do that. You start, as you do with every creative exercise in the Quantum Idea Generation 2.0 process, you start with an objective. For example, how can, and in this case, how can business model innovation create meaningful customer benefits and competitive advantages? That's the challenge. That's the objective you give the people in your creative session. That's what you're asking them to do. And then you present stimulus. And for example, for business model, you present business model innovation examples and how companies are using them to create competitive advantages. Lots of stimulus available out there. When you present this kind of stimulus, you start minds thinking immediately about ideas. And then you turn it over to the group. Step one, in a left brain approach, you'd ask individuals to write their ideas down, then share those ideas with one other person with the objective of making each other's ideas better, then share and build with a total group in the creative session, and then get a rough sense of what the most promising ideas are. Okay, so I've kind of given you, for the 10 types of innovation, a peek into 5 of the 10, and you can use the same process to look at the other 5 types, and how to select which ones might be most promising for your business, and then how you bring that into a creative session. And if you'd like to know more, and I hope you do, get Larry's book, 10 Types of Innovation. It's available on Amazon. Lots of examples in it. It's a very easy, short read. So that's it for the 10 types of innovation. And let's go into the next step, the next innovation best practice for processes, the 30 dimensions of value. This is wonderful work that was research that was published in the Harvard Business Review about what values are most important to people in their lives and the products that they use. High quality research. So when these are the 30 most important dimensions of value, these are the 30 values that are most important to people. So when you innovate around these values, you can have a high level of certainty, especially if they're directly relevant to use of your product, that they're going to make a difference. So when you innovate on these improvements, you'll be able to know that customers will appreciate your work. So let's get into this. Of the 30 dimensions of value, 14 are elements of functional value. You see them in front of you right now. Saves time, simplifies. I put quality in red because in just about every type of product and every type of situation, people will tell you that quality is a very important value for them. So you will never see, when you see a profile for particular products and industries and that sort of thing, that quality isn't one of the most important. So these are functional values, okay? Connects, informs, reduces cost, that sort of thing. Then there are 10 elements of emotional value. Reduces anxiety, rewards me, badge value, design and aesthetics, those kinds of things, emotional values, all of which are also very important. Now, which is more important to your business, functional or emotional values? Well, you can kind of make a determination, but please realize that to some degree or another, each of these are important to products. When you're looking at values, a mix of emotional and functional values are usually relevant to most products. So again, the remaining values that are not listed here are self-transcendent and broad life values that are probably not relevant for most product explorations that we're talking about here. So if there is anybody that has leveraged added value to create monster competitive advantages, it is Amazon. They introduced their Amazon Prime program, I think in about 2004 or something like that. And it was a single value at that time. Saves time. Free 2-day shipping. I know I signed up for it. Free day, you paid a fee, and everything you bought during the course of the next 12 months, you got free 2-day shipping. A great value that made a huge difference, very positive difference in their business, and was a major competitive advantage when they did it. Now, over time, Amazon, for their Amazon Prime program, has added value after value after value, all under the umbrella of what you get if you're an Amazon Prime member. It is absolutely amazing to me the way they've leveraged value. I mean, just a few of these, and if you're an Amazon Prime member, you know these very well. They added the value of fun and entertainment with their free Prime movies. They added more free entertainment with their free Prime music. They reduced risk by giving Prime photos and cloud storage, on and on and on. You see them on the list. And this isn't the complete list. This is some of the more frequently used ones, but there's additional advantages used here. Now, is this a monster competitive advantage like I said it is? Well, just go ask the people at Walmart. They have not found, and Walmart's no slouch when it comes to marketing and competitive advantages and innovation by themselves. But just ask them if this is a monster competitive advantage. They will tell you that it is. Now, they've tried to do single hand-to-hand combat over the free 2-day, 1-day shipping, no fee, and all that other sorts of stuff. But while that's relatively important, if you're an Amazon Prime member, that's not the only reason that you appreciate the value of what they do. So, adding value, is it a way of creating competitive advantage? You bet it is. Just ask Amazon with their Prime program. I want to just focus, like I did on the 10 types of innovation, just focus on a few of the value dimensions to kind of bring them to life a little bit more, and you can see the possibility. This one, just, the saves time, which can be a very important benefit to people. If you reduce total time that it requires for people to achieve and the benefits from a product, that can be reduced cooking time, for example. If you can reduce specific required time, for example, shorten the time to assemble. Any of us on Christmas morning would love that one, wouldn't we? And reduce purchasing time. Easy to find wherever you shop, retail, Amazon, all that sort of stuff. So saving time is a very big benefit for many, if not most, products. And so looking for opportunities to innovate around how you could save time in various dimensions with your product could be a way of creating those multiple highly meaningful benefits that add up to being dramatically better. Next one, simplify. This is another one that I think all of us can appreciate, that's important. For example, reducing the required steps to use a product, for example, from 4 steps to 2 steps. Woo! In many products, that would be, or even 1 step. Boy, would that be wonderful if you could do that. And you can innovate around what would we need to do to greatly simplify use of our product. That is a very promising avenue in most products for coming up with innovative solutions. Making something intuitive to use, not requiring a user manual. Making something easy to open, close, and dispose can also be avenues for exploring getting the benefits of simplification. So one of the 30 dimensions of value that can be very valuable to you. Next is reducing anxiety. With some products, reducing the risk of failure, namely you don't always get a quality outcome, can be a great innovative benefit that you can bring so that somebody gets a quality outcome every time. Reduce fear of being able to learn how to use it. The technology phobia that exists, with some people, that's for sure. Reduce anxiety about product safety, ingredients, and that sort of thing. All ways of leveraging the value that people want, which is to reduce anxiety. I think you're getting to see a pattern here, how these values can be used in various situations to create highly meaningful benefits for customers. Rewards me. Boy, a lot of people have gone to school on this one, haven't they? Extra benefits for purchasing. Airline miles, we know that well, and there's a lot of people out there with rewards programs. It's not important if your competitors have a reward program and doing a Me Too approach, you're not going to get a competitive advantage with that. Is there a way that you can gain a competitive advantage with the rewards programs if other people are doing it? That would be the innovative challenge you'd want to bring into a creative session. With some products, the rewards me can be use makes a family member or a loved one happy. That's a great reward for people. Another reward can be feeling a strong sense of accomplishment and pride with the use of a product and the outcome. Okay, so it's not always financial things that can be the rewards. Number of different ways of innovating to get a value that rewards me. And another one, especially that applies to a lot of products, especially with people wanting personalization with so much, is the value of variety. Food and beverages certainly know how valuable this can be. Various flavors, mouthfeel, sugar, no sugar, all those sorts of things. Styles, colors, seasonal fabrics. Usage, works in a wide variety of situations in the home. Variety for different speeds, sizes, and ease of use. There's all kinds of dimensions of variety that you can explore in creating innovative solutions that can become one of those highly meaningful benefits, singular benefit, that in combination with others add up to being dramatically better than your competition. I think you're getting a sense of how these things can be used to create maybe not the world's greatest benefit ever, but create an innovative solution that is indeed in its own right a competitive advantage, and that when you add up all the competitive advantages, they add up to being dramatically better. Okay? All of that is good. Now, in any product category or any type of product, there's what we call a value profile. And I've put a couple of them in front of you here for retail apparel and a brokerage. You can put together a profile for your own industry and understand what values are most important to consumers of your type of product. And then knowing which ones are currently most important, find ways to develop innovative solutions that improve them significantly to help create competitive advantages. So this is a way of helping know which ones you want to focus on. Having said that, you can add new values, just as Amazon did to their Prime program, new values that customers greatly appreciate and maybe have not been able to experience or receive previously in one of your in a type of product that you sell. A new value that is highly appreciated by people that can add to the value profile as a way of creating competitive advantages. Okay, so these values are great opportunities to seek innovative solutions that accumulate to being dramatically better than your competition. So, how can you use values to create competitive advantages? Well, it's very similar to the approach we used in taking a look at the 10 types of innovation. Take a look at the likes and dislikes and frustrations that people have that you could fix by improving your value equation. Get rid of the frustrations by simplifying use and getting more, reducing anxiety in terms of the outcome. And what benefits are most important could be made stronger.
You've got strong benefits already. How could you make them even stronger, that they rise to the level of being competitive advantages? And what consumer values are a threat that can be countered, competitive value innovation that can be countered with different types of values. Okay, so nice way to look at this is through the lens of your customers. Another way, as we did on the 10 types, is look at it from the perspective of technologies, brands, and assets that you have. What within that mix of things can you leverage to create innovative solutions in some important value areas, again, that cumulatively add up to creating a solution that is dramatically better than your competition. I say this with some repetition. I say it because that is the way you best use these tools. You create a number of innovative solutions, whether it be in the types of innovation or 30 dimensions of value, that add up as a package to being dramatically better. Okay? So, a lot of power here. Again, the creative exercise that you can use, specific creative exercise in a quantum idea generating session, are similar to what we saw in the 10 types, like select an objective. How can, for example, added simplicity innovation create meaningful customer benefits and competitive advantages? Great, great question to ask a creative exercise. Present stimulus on what does innovating for simplicity look like with other companies and how are they using it to create advantages. It takes some looking, but you will find it. Okay? And then the basic process for a left brain session. Individuals write their ideas, share them with others, build on them, share them with the total group, and get a rough sense of how things are going there. Okay? So hopefully you're starting to get a sense that the 30 dimensions of values, the source of that is exquisitely high quality research published in the Harvard Business Review. We've got functional values, we've got emotional values. Each of them can be leveraged. You want to be able to go through a process of selecting which ones you think might be most promising, and I've given you both customer and asset and capabilities perspectives for making some of those choices. And then in a creative session, having exercises like you see on the screen in front of you to develop specific innovative solutions. Okay? Lots of good stuff here. This is the path to creating those multiple highly meaningful benefits that add up to being dramatically better. So if you'd like to know more, I really urge you. This is a great article. You can go to hbr.org and get the article, The Elements of Value. It's from the September 2016 issue. The third of these 3 innovation best practices for processes is Blue Ocean Strategy. It has been around for at least a decade, probably 2 decades, and has a lot of enthusiastic support by people in the innovation community and within academia. And I'm a big fan of it because I think it's a powerful way of essentially creating new categories, new platforms where, as you'll hear, competition, at least initially, is irrelevant. So this is all about creating uncontested markets, making the competition irrelevant, creating and capturing new demand, and very importantly, creating new value equations. We'll get into that in just a moment here. But it is really at the heart. Value innovation, which we've just finished covering, is an integral part of Blue Ocean Strategy. And that's why these 2 are neighbors, but they're very close neighbors in terms of the way you can integrate one into the other. So on this one, the focus is on achieving both advantage and low cost. In a lot of other, in what's called red oceans, we'll be into that, people either are trying to win by advantage or win by low cost. In Blue Ocean Strategy, you're winning with both at the same time. And the superstars of Blue Ocean Strategy are Cirque du Soleil and NetJets. We'll get into Cirque du Soleil in more detail. So let's get into this.
There's blue oceans, but there's also, as the authors and founders of Blue Ocean Strategy say, there's red ocean strategy. And this is the vast majority of innovation that goes on, and really what I've been talking about for most of this particular video, which is innovating against existing competitors in existing categories, winning versus competition. You've heard me talking about creating solutions that are dramatically better than your competition. That's red ocean strategy and building on existing demand through innovations. It is a very positive and promising way to go about innovation. The appeal of blue ocean strategy is that when you're successful with this, the advantages are at the very top of the kind of returns that you can get in terms of sales and profitability especially. It's all about creating new categories and types of products, new demand, and making competition irrelevant, at least initially. And by that I mean, in not all cases, what you invent is proprietary and leaves anyone else out of it. NetJet certainly was innovative, but Wheels Up and other people have entered that category too. So, but initially it is a way of creating new demand, and there's lots of advantages typically to companies who are first with something. So that's the difference between red and blue oceans. Since it's about creating new industries and new categories, I thought I'd share a couple of pages here of information, because you say, does that really happen all that much? Far more than you thought it would. Look at these industries that did not exist 100 or more years ago. Aviation, music recording, petrochemicals, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, management consulting. Didn't exist. They were blue oceans when they were started. Okay? Well, let's come a little bit closer in time. 40 years ago, there were not coffee bars like Starbucks. I was alive during 40 years ago, so I know these things. Discount retailing like Walmart did not exist. Kmart came out. I mean, we had anything other than discount retailing in where I grew up in Massachusetts. Mutual funds didn't exist like Fidelity. Express package like UPS and FedEx? Heck no. Had UPS, but it wasn't express in the way that we know it today. Cellular phone? The closest we came to that was the comic books with Dick Tracy and having a cell phone-like thing on his wrist. Kind of predicted the Apple Watch later on, but no, cell phones didn't exist 40 years ago. And biotechnology like Amgen rather. So, I mean, at least you think that creating blue ocean strategies is very difficult and infrequent. It isn't. Okay. Times move on, and typically blue ocean innovations are highly disruptive because they create new demand and actually, in many cases, draw customers from 2 or more different sources. So it can be very, very disruptive to a lot of folks. Good if you're the disruptor, I guess. Now, research has shown that blue ocean strategy is far more profitable. What you see in this chart is from the Harvard Business Review. In a research that they did, they found that the vast majority of people are doing red ocean innovation. No surprise there to me, 86% constituted 62% of the revenue and 39% of the profit. And while only 14% of the ventures were blue oceans, they disproportionately 38% of the revenue and 61% of the profit. That's why you want to give serious consideration to innovating in a blue ocean strategy way. That's why the information I'm going to share with you here can be so extremely valuable to you in your innovation program. So, blue ocean strategy is value-based. I talked about that earlier. And this is kind of like a chart that you put together. Remember the value profile that I talked about in the previous section on the 30 dimensions of value. This is where you would put that. And what you put in here in the top left is values that might be eliminated from the current profile, values that can be increased, values that can be reduced, and adding new values. Okay. Essentially what you do here is take an existing category with a value profile and create a new value profile by eliminating, increasing, reducing, and adding. It's a very interesting approach. And at the end of the day, the new value profile often ends up being an entirely new business. So let's take a little bit closer look at Cirque du Soleil, since it's kind of like the superstar example of Blue Ocean strategy. What they observed were that circuses were declining, and they certainly were. Circus costs were increasing. They absolutely were. And after Cirque du Soleil was invented or developed, 10 or 20 years after that, the major circuses are now out of business. There are regional and local ones, but the Barnum and Bailey and all that sort of thing are bankruptcy and gone. So circuses were one of the value equations they looked at, and the other one was theater, the drama, the plot lines. And they found that there was a profitable new market in the intersection of those that created a new category that for lack of a better term, the category is named after the company, Cirque du Soleil. It is the definition of the business. Here's what they did. Versus circuses and theaters, especially circuses, what the values that could be eliminated were animals, star performers, they cost a lot of money, and 3 rings. Okay, that went out. Values that were increased, clowns, acrobats, circus, tent setting. Okay. Values that could be reduced, humor and danger, the storylines, and adding new values, storylines and original music. So really changing the value equation is what produced an entirely new profile that when all the dust settled was an entirely new kind of entertainment company, Cirque du Soleil. And if you ever go to Vegas, you'll see that that entertainment concept is extremely prevalent and successful. And you don't have to go to Vegas. They tour and go other places too. So it's a major entertainment option. So here are the advantages of Blue Ocean strategy. You take innovation. Sometimes people think innovation is all about new technologies and extending technologies as a way of enabling new benefits. And that's fine. But innovation is really more than just technology. It's about changing the value equations. It's through thinking you sculpt, if you will, an entirely new category. It can create, and often does, create a significant barrier to competitive entry. And the economic barriers can be large, not always, but can be. The organizational barriers can stop many people. If you take a look at Cirque du Soleil, the pool of talent required to do all the different kinds of performances and everything like that is not your everyday run an ad and get people lined up outside. It's got some very special skills required to do that, and looks like they've got a bit of a corner on that market. And Blue Ocean strategy advantages, new ways of thinking and making money can stop others. As I said, I'm not exactly sure of the timing, but it feels like about 20 years after Cirque du Soleil started, the major circuses were then out of business. I think the circuses had their own Achilles heels, if you will, multiple problems. But certainly a new competitive entertainment competition, as represented by Cirque du Soleil, didn't help. So, how do you use Blue Ocean strategy in a creative session? Well, what you want to do is create a strategy canvas along the lines that I was just sharing with you. And then you want to create a 4 actions framework, as I was talking about before, to create new value equations by adding, subtracting, increasing, decreasing, and eliminating. And within all of this, you want to use quantum idea generation 2.0 methodology to create new solutions. And that means you've got diversity, you've got stimulus, you've got left and right brain, and you're bringing lots of fun and positive energy to the creative process. These things all work together. And if they don't, you're not going to get the most out of Blue Ocean strategy. It's a powerful, powerful model, if you will, for innovating, but it's really optimized when you incorporate the methodology of quantum idea generation 2.0. Okay? So, if you'd like to learn more, and I urge you to do that, the original book, Blue Ocean Strategy, has sold 3.5 million copies. As an author, I can tell you that's an incredible number of sales. And the same authors have more recently published the book Blue Ocean Shift Beyond Competing. Both books, I think, are well worth your while if you want to know more about Blue Ocean strategy. It can be of tremendous help to you. So, what have you learned in this particular training video? Well, you've learned the role of quantum idea generation 2.0. You use things like the 10 types of innovation, 30 dimensions of value, and Blue Ocean strategy. The creative process you use to get the most out of those processes is quantum 2.0. Okay? You learned that about the 10 types of innovation, and the more types of innovation you use, the more successful you are going to be. And showed you 2 examples of the iPhone and Model T using 5 types of innovation to generate true winning wow ideas. Okay? You learned about the 30 dimensions of value, specific actions, and I shared with you 5 different values there, focusing on them, specific actions you can take in a creative session to create dramatically better innovations. In Blue Ocean strategy, creating solutions without competition, specific creative exercises you can use to develop new equations. Here's what the way to think about this, and I've talked about this, and I hope you don't get sick of hearing it, and be patient with me and with yourself in this. I keep reinforcing where you need to set the bar if you want to double your innovation success rate. Not many companies that I work with can I convince them to be able to set the bar there. They're looking for smaller types of innovation, which have extraordinarily high failure rates. When you know exactly what you need to do and the capabilities you need to accomplish it, namely doubling your innovation success rate, which is setting the bar at creating multiple highly meaningful benefits using the 40 different options in the 10 types and 30 dimensions, in combination with quantum idea generation and artificial intelligence and IBM Watson Analytics and Merwin, which will be the topic of the next training video, you have a lot going on here that can help you to consistently double your innovation success rate. All of this is proven, and proven. And it's also very practical and easy to use. You want to be careful with the easy. The specific things that you need to do, the processes, are in and by themselves not all that complex and difficult to use. It requires some judgment, some creativity, some ability to be spontaneous, go with the flow, and a number of other things. But that's gained through experience in working with this. Okay? So lots of great value here for you to help you make dramatic improvements in your innovation program in 90 days or less. So I hope this really helps, and I'll see you in the next training video.